Look, absolutely. I can't even believe we're having this discussion when there are still hostages being held captive. But for people who don't understand, explain to us why recognising Palestinian statehood on the world stage is highly problematic and essentially rewards Hamas. Can you break it down for us?
Well, lots of people have been talking about the two-state solution for a long time, a state of Israel and a state of Palestine side by side. But that can only happen when the Palestinian actors acknowledge Israel's right to exist. And so many actors, sadly, in the Palestinian territories don't recognise Israel's right to exist, including Hamas. And there are lots of other issues around the final status of Jerusalem, where the boundaries of states might exist would be. And all of these discussions were alive in the 1990s and early 2000s as Israel made a series of offers to the Palestinians in relation to different states. But since October 7, we've had a very different scenario now, where you had Hamas, a terrorist organisation that we list as a terrorist organisation in this country, commit the most appalling crime against innocent Israelis. People, were murdered, raped, maimed, killed, captured, babies and Holocaust survivors who were dismembered on that day and who were then killed in Gaza's terror tunnels. The idea that we would go back to this idea of talking about a Palestinian state in these circumstances is simply to reward Hamas for their actions. And it sends a very bad signal around the world that if you commit a terrorist act, if you're a terrorist organisation, that the international community will give you exactly what you want. And that is not something that Australia should be party to.
No, it's like complete capitulation. We know that Canada has become the latest to declare it would recognise Palestine. It follows France and the UK. Julian, what I'm finding is that each of these countries keeps saying that this is the only way to achieve a two-state solution and that there has to be peace in the region. But the reality is that Hamas wants neither of those. So where is the moral clarity on what these Western leaders actually want here? And it's almost like they're just following the lead of one another without being able to properly explain their decision-making.
Well, this is right, Danica. We should believe Hamas when they say they want to obliterate Israel, when they want to wipe them from the face of the earth. That is effectively what's in their charter, Palestine from the river to the sea. And when they're using those sort of language, they don't want any part of a two-state solution. And we as Australians should make our own independent foreign policy. In the past, the tradition has been that Australia was one of very few nations that would tend to vote on these matters at the international fora alongside Israel. We were there with the United States and several other nations. Papua New Guinea has been very consistent in its support for Israel, for instance. But since the election of this government, and even before October 7, we have seen this push for unilateral recognition of a Palestinian state, which means the recognition of a Palestinian state before those preconditions have been met. In other words, before the Palestinian actors have recognised Israel's right to exist and before those final status issues about boundaries in Jerusalem and other things have been worked out. So, I don't think we should be rushing headlong to do what Canada and other countries are doing just because they're doing it. I think we should stay with the tradition, the previously bipartisan position, that we recognise that we look to any kind of state's recognition after that state has come into being and after those preconditions have been met. This is a complete departure from Australian foreign policy, and all that it does is rewards Hamas for its actions of terrorism.
Yeah, absolutely. Julian, just on another matter, exiled Iranians living in Australia are reportedly being stalked and threatened by Islamic Republic agents for criticising Iran's supreme leader. One Iranian national in Australia told the Australian newspaper, agents of the Islamic Republic are threatening to kill me and are putting pressure on my family in Iran, saying that if I don't stay silent, they will harm them. Look, this is frightening, Julian, especially that this is happening in our own country. What more can be done here?
Well, it's an appalling situation, Danica. I represent the fourth largest Iranian community in the country. They are wonderful citizens. They contribute in every imaginable facet, and they are thoroughly peaceful, and they want to get as far away from the regime as possible. So the idea that we have Iranian agents in this country roughing up and threatening the diaspora community here is appalling. Those people should face the full force of the law. The foreign minister should call in the Iranian foreign minister for a full dressing down. The Iranian foreign minister, who has been has made anti-Semitic comments and has been somebody who has weakened the social cohesion of this country, should be expelled. And the government should crack on and list the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is the Iranian secret police, as a terrorist organisation, as several other nations like Canada have done. And we have said repeatedly that we are happy to support any changes to any law to make that happen. And I repeat that offer to the government because we cannot have a situation where Australians are being roughed up by foreign regimes and the people engaged in that are not brought to justice.
Yeah, I can't believe it. It hasn't been done as of yet. Julian Leeser, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me on the show this evening.
Thanks, Danica.